Hi guys, welcome to the Crime Talk Show with me, Zizi Pokango. And in today's story, I am going to talk about the story of Sinoxolo Mafevuka, who was a 19-year-old female from Ekhayelitsha. Now, before I get into Sinoxolo's story, I would like to firstly describe the kind of place that Khayelitsha is. Khayelitsha is home to thousands and thousands of Black South Africans. It is one of the fastest growing townships in the Western Cape, and it is known for its entrepreneurial spirit and also its social development projects. But in as much as there is a brighter side to Khayelitsha, there is also the dark side of Khayelitsha, and that is, it is known as a violent place. It is a place where one wouldn't feel safe even if they are in a public space, and also it is a place where some of the most gruesome murders in the country took place. Now, moving right back to Sinoxolo's story, as mentioned, she was a 19-year-old female from Ekhayelitsha, and she was staying in an informal settlement called SST, Esedown 2. On this particular day, it was the 1st of March 2016, and it was around about 7 p.m. in the evening, and she was at home preparing dinner with her sister-in-law, Sinoxolo Mafevuka. So she quickly wanted to run to the loo, and she took a roll of toilet paper and left her cell phone behind, thinking that she would be back almost immediately. Now, because they were staying in an informal settlement, this meant that they were using communal toilets, and the toilets were about 200 meters away from her house. This was the last time her family had ever seen or heard from her. On the morning of the 2nd of March 2016, Yongama Mdia, who is a neighbor to the Mafevukas, was on his way to school when he noticed that one of the doors in the communal toilets was opened. Now, he found this to be kind of strange because the toilet was no longer in use because it had leakage problems, and also the floor was always wet. Something inside the toilet caught his attention, and that was the body of a naked woman, and her face was in the toilet bowl. Her clothes were ripped apart and they were shoved into the cistern, and this caused the toilet to leak even more. So nomzimba wakhe waye waba manzi because of that. And so he cried for help. Abahlali bafika ngobuninzi babo, and police were called into the crime scene. Now, during this whole time, Sinoxolo Mafevuka was at home, and so she heard the commotion that was happening around the communal toilets. She rushed to the place, and what she found there was Sinoxolo's body laying there, motionless. Abahlali baye bafonela amapolisa. The police got into the crime scene at around about 8 a.m. in the morning, and ufika kwabo, they also called an ambulance. The ambulance came and it confirmed that indeed Sinoxolo was no more. Now, the police say things in the crime scene were all over the place, but they were able to collect a few items as part of the evidence. Amongst izinto abaye bazithatha was ijezi abahlali ababesithi kaSinoxolo, and also a pair of sunglasses, a hat, a bra, and also a panty. Ezi zinto zonke bebesithi bazosebenzisa as evidence. Her body was then taken to the Tygerberg Hospital, where it was examined and they determined ukuthi she had been strangled to death. They also noticed ukuthi her murderers tried to force her body into the toilet, and when they failed, baye bambetha ngesiciko se-toilet bamshiya apho. A fingerprint was also recovered from her body, and they needed someone whom they can compare it to. The investigating process then began. The police followed the normal procedure, and that is they interviewed friends, family, neighbors, bezama uqonda ukubana isn't there something mhlambi that was unusual on that particular night, or if mhlambi zange baqaphele nto. And one eyewitness came forward He said that he was on his way home from a local tavern, and it was around about midnight when he heard isikhalo sentombi and two men dragging a woman to the communal toilets. Now he says he hid because wayengayazi ukubana bazomenza ntoni ukuba bambonile, and understandably so, because wayeziva kamnandi na. So amapolisa aye azama umbuza neminye imibuzo, and then he gave them amagama abo, but it was his street names, and he said he could identify them by amagama abo anga aziwayo pha ekuhlaleni, and not their original names okanye amagama kwi-ID. And so the police started their research, or they started doing their research with the names that they had. They also went back to Uyongama, who discovered umzimba kaSinoxolo, and he said that he did see a group of men, by 7, around the communal toilets, and it was in the evening in Gelogresha, and he was on his way to the stores to buy prepaid electricity. But he said that he could not identify them because it was a little bit dark. And so amapolisa aqhubekeka enza uphando lwawo, and ifamily yakhe at some point felt that amapolisa were only showing face, and bebezenza, like the visits that they were getting from high rank police officers were only because the case was now getting the attention in media. The bras and the panties that were discovered, or that were collected from the crime scene, could not be linked to uSinoxolo. And when they were taken to ifamily yakhe, they also could not identify them. They could not be linked kuye because beziye zahlambeka since beziye zahlohlwa pha kulandawo ye Nantsik yoflasha. And so 2 weeks after she had been murdered, arrests were made. The community was furious, and understandably so. Another soul has been lost, and akwazi uba ngubani owenze le nto. And so when these people were arrested, yavusa imisindo apha ekuhlaleni, because these people were known for all the wrong reasons by the community. Protests were held, and also there was a petition signed, and abahlali babecela uba aba bantu bangayinikezwa i-bail as they are a danger to i-community. And when they appeared for the first time in court, and that was for their bail appearance or their bail application, their names were made public. Atabile Mafevuka, who was 21 years of age at the time, and Xolisa Mafevuka, who was 29 years of age at the time, were cousins to Sinoxolo's boyfriend. Viwe, who is or who was Sinoxolo's boyfriend, was acquitted from the case with a solid alibi. As mentioned, the two were known for all the wrong reasons by the community, and so their motive at court was revealed. The state claimed that they were suspects, or Uviwe was suspecting that uSinoxolo was cheating on him, and so his cousins wanted to avenge for him. This angered the community even more, and as a matter of fact, bail was denied, and the reason was the cries of the community had been heard. Ukuthandabuzeka kwe-case kuqale when the defense attorney asked uba yenzeka njani into yokuba someone who is claiming to have passed communal toilets at midnight akwazi ukuba identifier aba bantu and ame athi ngabo, and there is someone who says he passed there earlier on and ebengakwazi ukuba identifier aba bantu. But the eyewitness stood his ground and said there was a little bit of light pakulandawo, and he knew these people, he knew who they were, so ebengenobhidwa ngabo. The police then took the suspects to the crime scene, and when they got there, indeed amapolisa aye anotice ukuthi there's actually 2 lights eziphayana. And also when they took them to the crime scene, they thought that maybe, just maybe, they would have isazela and confess to the crime. But ke baye bama abavuma, they stood their ground ukuthi abenza nganto bona. And so the pathologist then testified, and in his testimony it was noted that the time of death had not been determined, okanye it had not been identified. Now, the time of death would have played a major role in this case because we have someone who says he saw Sinoxolo, or he saw a woman being dragged to the communal toilets at midnight. And kengoku there is a 5-hour difference kuyo yonke lento. So the question now remains ukubana ngubani okanye ebephi ngela xesha, like usweleke nini kanye kanye. And also it would have also played a major role when the accused started to present their alibis. Athabile Mafevuka's girlfriend was his alibi. She says she was at home at around about 8 p.m. and she was watching TV, and at around about 9 p.m. she then decided that she wanted to spend the night with her boyfriend. She went to look for him and she found him at his aunt's place, and he found him with Uxolisa and 2 other people. So Uti, they stayed there for quite some time, and then bagxothwa ke ngu-auntie because ebesithi ngoku bayangqola and ufuna ulala, and so they left. So uthi baye bahamba bebonke xa bephuma kwa-auntie, but along the way baye bohlukana. Yena she left with uAthabile, and then Uxolisa and the 2 other people went their way. And so she also claimed to have been friends with Sinoxolo, and that the day before she was murdered, they had gone out, and according to about her going out with Sinoxolo, because remember there is a rumor yokokuba she was cheating on her boyfriend. And when this lady now says ubana she had gone out with her, then ebenoyazi ukubana mhlambi kuye kwenzeka ntoni, did she really cheat, ikhona nyani nale nto ithethekayo, but there is no record okokubana waye wayibuzwa naloo nto ecourt. Then kwabizwa the investigating officer to testify, and he gave his testimony, but he was contradicting himself at court. He also admitted that he did not file his notes. He forgot to take notes, okanye he lost his notebook when he went to interview abantu, and he was also removed from the crime or from the case 10 days after ivuliwe case. And so ukuzicontractitha kwakhe naye nako played a major role kule case, because ngoku abantu baye baphinde kwakhona abasithemba istate uba hayi man, istate asinakhe isibambekayo apha, like there's nothing that they can do. So kunjalo. And also this whole thing caused a rift kwi-family yakwaMafevuka, because nabo ngoku there were those that were siding with the family and besitsho uba ngabantwana babuleleyo, and there were those point out as loopholes besithi no, there is just no way that they could have done this. So also it was brought into the attention of the court that there was someone obeye wahlatywa, and the one other person had to flee to the Eastern Cape because they were being threatened, and the person who was stabbed said he was stabbed by someone from the Mafevuka family. Uxolisa did fumble just a little at court when he was asked about his whereabouts. When he was asked if he had been at work between the 1st and the 2nd of March 2016, he said yes. And when the police did their own investigation, they actually found out that he ebengayanga emsebenzini. But remember, there was a fingerprint that was recovered from umzimba kaSinoxolo, and so when they compared it to bona ayizange imeche. U-auntie was supposed to have ubana aye ecourt, but azange aye because i-defense yala uba makaye. At first they wanted her to be part of witnesses, but at a later stage bale remove igama lakhe. Estate isazama uthetha nejaji ubana makuzanywe uba u-auntie makeze, but babesala. And the reason why babesala, it's because there was a rumor yokokubana u-auntie was the one actually going around threatening people. And so at some point the accused had to let go of their attorney because they could no longer afford to pay him. And also they were very confident because kaloku yonke into ibicalanye kubo looking at it. case nendlela izinto ebezisenzeka ngayo, they could see that there is actually a greater chance that they could win the case. So when they had to let go of their attorney, they had to use legal aid, and that sort of delayed court process. And yeah, for inyangana kwaye kwahlala kungasetyenzwa, and on the 17th of September 2017, Judge Babier then handed over his judgment, and he found both the accused not guilty. Now, this caused a lot of disruption in the court because abantu bebenga understandi. Umama kaSinoxolo wayekhala, she also could not understand ukuba yenzeka njani into enjena, but they were found not guilty. And the judge did say that he was sympathetic towards the family, but he had to apply the law fairly, and that the state had failed to produce tangible evidence. And so because of that, ebengakwazi ukubana abafinde be guilty uXolisa no Athabile, and that is how they were acquitted from the case. Ibuhlungu into yokubana in this day and age where into yokubulawa kwabantu basetyhini, into yokuhlukunyezwa kwabantwana has become a norm, we still have cases that go on unresolved. And I think it is up to us as the citizens to keep the names of the victims alive and hope that one day justice would prevail. Maybe one day the police would revisit their cases. And we believe that in this instance, this is the case where police would reopen the case and justice would prevail. But for now, ours is to keep the names of the victims alive. That is all I had for you today. And if ufuna ukuva more about istories kaSinoxolo and how it got to gain the attention of the media, and some of the things abantu bokuhlala abafila ngongathi played role ekubeni kube kanti kukhona umntana oswelekela kweza toilets, you can listen to Nicole Engelbrecht's podcast, and she dwells much more onto the story and some of the inequalities of this country as years abangele ekubeni kube kanti kukanje namhlanje. That is all I had for you today. If you've got any stories that you would like for me to cover, please do leave your suggestions down on the comment section, and don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe, and bye.